AITA for refusing to let my parents ruin my marriage. When I sent out my wedding invites, 2 names were missing, my mom and dad. I thought I was protecting myself from more pain. But the moment they found out, it turned into a storm that still hasn't ended. My name is Bellamy, and I'm 34. My wife, Vienna, is 28. We got married in late October, in a quiet garden behind her aunt's house just outside Bath. It was a small, calm evening, the kind of moment I had always wanted but never thought I'd have. There was a small wooden arch decorated with ivy and candles in glass jars lining the path. Vienna wore a pale blue dress she had sewn herself, and I wore a plain gray suit. The air smelled faintly of lavender from the garden beds, and as she walked toward me, I remember thinking that, for the first time, I wasn't nervous about anything. It felt right. It felt peaceful, but I didn't invite my parents. They live up in Lincolnshire, about 5 hours away, and every time I've gone home, something has gone wrong. My mother criticizes everyone and everything, from the way Vienna dresses to the way she speaks. My father has this habit of cutting into every conversation with some backhanded comment. He calls me the quiet disappointment, says it half jokingly, half like he means it. My younger sister, Khaleesi, hardly speaks to me unless she wants money or favors. When Vienna and I got engaged, I tried to be respectful. I told them gently that we wanted a small ceremony, just close friends and her family. My mother didn't even let me finish. Bellamy, a real wedding needs family, she said, her tone dripping with judgment. You're not doing this properly. My father just shook his head, muttering, you'll regret shutting us out. I remember sitting there at their kitchen table, staring at the wallpaper that hadn't changed in 20 years and realizing I didn't want to fight them anymore. So I stopped explaining. We didn't invite them. We sent no invitations, no messages, nothing. We just got married quietly, the way we wanted. The next day, Vienna posted a few photos, one of us under the arch, one with her dad and aunt, and one of us cutting cake with messy frosting. That's when it started. My phone began buzzing. Dozens of missed calls from my mother, then a single text from my father that said, so this is how you repay the people who raised you. I didn't reply. I couldn't. For the first time in years, I felt free. But that freedom didn't last long. That evening, Vienna's phone started lighting up too. Her expression changed as she read the comments under the wedding post. Some of them were from relatives of mine, distant cousins, old family friends. They wrote things like, guess his side wasn't good enough to be there. Sad when people forget who made them who they are. That poor woman doesn't know what she's marrying into. Vienna started crying quietly. I took the phone from her, deleted the post, and said we'd let it blow over. But deep down, I knew my family wouldn't stop there. The next morning, I got an email from Khaleesi. It said, you've embarrassed us, Bellamy. Mom hasn't stopped crying. Dad says you're banned from the house. Congratulations. You've finally given him a reason to be ashamed of you. I stared at the screen for a long time. Vienna told me to ignore it. Don't feed them, Bellamy, she said softly. But something in me broke. I typed back. If you think I ruined anything, maybe you weren't watching closely. You all ruined it years ago. 2 hours later, my phone rang. It was my father. What the hell is wrong with you? He barked the moment I answered. You humiliated this family. I tried to stay calm. Dad, it was our wedding, not yours. Your mother's been crying all day, he yelled. Do you know what people are saying about us? I don't care what people are saying. I snapped. You've been embarrassing me for years. He went silent for a moment, then said in that quiet, poisonous tone he uses when he wants to hurt, you sound just like her, meaning Vienna. That was it. I yelled so loud Vienna came running from the other room. Don't you dare talk about her like that again. I shouted into the phone. You lost the right to tell me what to do the day I realized I'd rather live alone than live under your roof. He laughed, that bitter, mocking laugh I've heard my whole life. Enjoy your fake little life, Bellamy, he said, and hung up. I stood there shaking, phone still in my hand. Vienna put her arms around me, but I was too angry to move. I threw the phone across the room and said, I'm done with them. For a while, things went quiet, but quiet never lasts with my family. A few weeks later, I got a Facebook message from one of my uncles, a man I barely speak to. He wrote, your father says you've turned into a disrespectful brat. Maybe he was right all along. I didn't even respond. I blocked everyone from my family. Vienna thought it was over, but that same night, my mother started calling from new numbers. I answered once, a mistake. She was crying. How could you do this to me? She said. To your sister? To your father? I didn't do anything, I said. You got married like a criminal sneaking off in the dark, she shouted. We just wanted peace, I said. Peace? She snapped. You'll never know peace after what you've done. That was the moment I stopped trying. A few days later, Vienna and I were at dinner with friends when Khaleesi called. I ignored it. Then she called again and again. Finally, Vienna said, just answer. Maybe it's important. I picked up. Khaleesi, didn't even say hello. You've destroyed this family, she said. Mom can't even look at your wedding photos without crying. Maybe she should stop looking, I said coldly. You're cruel, Bellamy, she snapped. You're just like her, cold, selfish. Say one more word about my wife. I cut her off, my voice rising, and I swear I'll never speak to you again. She laughed bitterly. You already don't. Then maybe it's better that way. I yelled and hung up. Vienna looked shaken. You shouldn't yell, she whispered. I turned to her. They keep attacking you. Vienna, what do you want me to do? Sit quietly. Her eyes filled with tears. I want you to stop letting them drag you into their chaos. I felt guilty, but also angry. Angry that I had to defend myself for defending her. I walked out and stood in the cold night air, staring at the streetlights, wondering if cutting my family off completely was the only way to survive them. The next morning, there was another email, this time from my father. You're not welcome here. Don't call, don't visit. When you come to your senses, we might talk. I wrote back one sentence. Then I guess we'll never talk again. He didn't reply. For a while, things were tense but calm. Then one afternoon, while we were out grocery shopping, we bumped into an old family friend of my parents. She smiled politely and said, your mom says you're going through a phase. That Vienna's got you under some spell. Vienna's face went pale. I clenched my jaw and said, tell her the spell's called happiness. Then I walked away before I said something worse. When we got home, Vienna broke down crying. I can't live like this, Bellamy, she said. Every time we take a step forward, they find a way to drag us back. That night, we fought, really fought. Voices raised, words thrown like knives. I can't control what they do. I shouted, no, but you feed it, she cried. You keep answering them, replying, yelling back. You let them pull you in. They insult you. I yelled, slamming my hand against the table. You think I'm going to just sit there while they tear you apart? She stared at me, trembling. Sometimes silence hurts more, she whispered. Neither of us spoke after that. For days, the house was quiet except for the sound of Vienna sewing at her desk and me sitting in the next room pretending to work. But inside, I was burning with anger, shame, guilt, and a strange kind of exhaustion that sat heavy in my chest. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched. I started turning it off, started avoiding social media altogether. But one evening, I opened my laptop to check emails for work, and there it was. A new message from my mother. You may have deleted us from your wedding, but you'll always be our son. You'll regret choosing her over us. I stared at those words for a long time. Then I typed back, slowly, if this is what love looks like, I don't need it. I hit send. Then I shut the laptop, turned off my phone, and sat in the dark beside Vienna. She looked at me, eyes red but soft, and whispered, you did the right thing. I nodded, though part of me wasn't sure anymore. It didn't take them long to find a way to get to me. I received an email from Khaleesi first thing on a Monday morning. I just sat down at my desk, half awake, still tasting last night's coffee in my mouth. It read, you've humiliated us, Bellamy. Mom hasn't stopped crying. Dad says you're banned from the family home. Congratulations on ruining what little respect he had left for you. No greeting, no love, just venom. Vienna told me not to answer. She said, they're fishing for a reaction. Don't give them one. But I couldn't help it. My fingers were already typing before my brain caught up. I wrote back, we had a quiet wedding because we wanted peace, not drama. I tried to sound calm, mature, but I wasn't calm, not even close. An hour later, my phone started buzzing nonstop. Notifications, mentions. When I opened Facebook, my stomach turned. My mother had made a public post. Imagine your own son getting married and not telling you. Some people forget where they come from. Hundreds of reactions, comments from people I barely remembered, old family friends, cousins, even the neighbors who once complained about our lawn. One comment said, disgusting. What kind of man hides his wedding from his mother? Another, that wife of his must have poisoned him. And the one that stuck the most, Vienna always looked fake. Now it makes sense. Vienna saw it before I could hide it. Her hands started trembling. She deleted her own wedding post, quietly, like she was erasing herself from our own story. Then she sat on the couch, covered her face, and cried. I sat beside her, unsure what to say. Every time I opened my mouth, I felt like I'd make it worse. That night, when the silence became unbearable, I did the one thing I shouldn't have. I called my father. He picked up after 2 rings. Dad, I just want to talk like adults, I said. There was a pause, the kind that makes you feel smaller with every second. Then he said, flat and cold, adults don't run away and hide. And then the click. The call ended. Something in me snapped. I hurled the phone across the room. It hit the wall and shattered. Vienna jumped up. What did that solve, Bellamy? She shouted. Her voice cut through the quiet house like glass breaking. It solved nothing. I yelled back. Nothing ever does with them. She threw her hands up. Then why keep giving them power? Why call him? Why read their garbage posts? Because they're my family. I barked. Because I can't just erase 30 years like it's nothing. She stepped closer, eyes burning. You already chose, Bellamy. You chose peace. You chose us. But you keep running back into their fire and dragging the smoke here. That stung. Because she was right. And I hated that she was right. I turned away, fists clenched. Maybe if you hadn't posted posted those damn pictures, none of this would have started. Her face twisted. Excuse me. You knew they'd see it. You knew. She took a step back, voice cracking. So now it's my fault your parents hate me? I didn't answer fast enough, and that silence was enough. Vienna's voice rose again. You think I wanted this? You think I enjoy being the villain in their story? You didn't help. I shot back. She let out a bitter laugh. You know what's sad? You're so used to being their punching bag that when they hit you, you look around for someone else to blame. That hit harder than I expected. I felt something heavy in my chest. Shame, rage, exhaustion, all tangled. Don't talk to me like that, I said, voice low. Then stop pretending you're the only one suffering, she screamed. They insulted me, Bellamy. Called me manipulative, fake, a homewrecker. And you think I don't feel that every time I close my eyes? Her eyes were wet but fierce. I married you because I believed you wanted peace, but you're addicted to their chaos. I don't even know what I said after that. The words blurred together. Accusations, defenses, everything we'd both bottled up spilling out at once. At one point, I yelled that she didn't understand loyalty. She yelled that I didn't understand love. We both cried, but neither of us reached for the other. After the shouting stopped, the silence that followed was brutal. Vienna went into the bedroom and closed the door. I stayed on the couch, staring at the broken phone on the floor. In the glow of the lamp, I saw my reflection in the black screen. Red eyes, clenched jaw, that same quiet disappointment my father always called me. Things stayed quiet for a while. Too quiet, the kind that feels like waiting for a storm. Vienna tried to make the silence mean something good. She baked on weekends, filled the house with the smell of cinnamon and vanilla, tried to keep me laughing with small jokes about how we were finally a peaceful married couple. But guilt works like a slow drip. It seeps in, even when you pretend you're fine. By December, it was dripping all the time. Every Christmas of my life had been at my parents' house in Lincolnshire. Roast dinner, bad jokes, my father watching old war films half asleep. The thought of missing that gnawed at me. Vienna saw it. If you want to see them, she said softly one night, go ahead. I'll understand. I told her I didn't want to go without her. That we'd go together. One day, no overnights, no drama. She hesitated but nodded. One day, she said, that's it. So I called my mother. Her voice came through warm, almost rehearsed, like she'd practiced what to say. Of course, dear, she cooed. We'll make room. I wanted to believe she meant it. I really did. But the second we pulled into the old driveway, something felt wrong. There were too many cars, too much noise spilling from inside. When we stepped through the door, my stomach dropped. Every relative I could think of was there. Cousins, uncles, even the old neighbors who used to scold me for kicking my football into their garden. And right in the middle of the dining table sat a framed photo of my parents on their wedding day. Smiling, perfect, untouched by resentment. Vienna's face went pale. She squeezed my hand under the table so hard her nails left little half moons in my skin. My father stood and lifted his glass. This, he announced, voice booming, is what a real family celebration looks like. A few people clapped. Others just glanced at Vienna, then at me. I wanted to disappear. Dinner dragged on. The tension was so thick it felt like eating glass. My mother kept refilling my plate, saying, you look thin, Bellamy. Vienna not feeding you. Every time she said it, a few people chuckled. Vienna's hands trembled in her lap. I could see tears building, but she forced a smile. Khaleesi, sitting across the table, smirked. He used to eat properly when he lived here, she said, stabbing her fork into her potatoes. Enough, I muttered, but she kept going. You've changed, Bellamy, she said. You don't even sound like yourself anymore. Vienna whispered, please stop. Khaleesi leaned forward. I'm just saying Mum's right. He looks drained. That was it. I slammed my fork down. I look drained because I'm sitting in a room full of people who can't stop insulting me or my wife. The table went silent. My father's face turned red. Watch your tone, he barked. Don't raise your voice at your sister. I stood. Then tell her to stop talking to my wife like she's dirt. Khaleesi shot up too, eyes flashing. Oh, here we go again. The dramatic act. Maybe Vienna should let you speak for yourself less. Then you wouldn't be such a... Finish that sentence, I warned. Coward, she said. The word hit like a slap. I stepped closer. You've done nothing but leech off Mum and Dad your entire life. Don't talk to me about courage. Her face twisted. At least I didn't run away from my family. Run away. I snapped. I escaped. Bellamy, my father roared, slamming his glass down so hard it cracked. You don't speak to your sister that way in this house. This isn't your house anymore. I shot back. It's a shrine to your ego. Gasps. My mother started crying, loudly, theatrically. Oh, listen to him, she sobbed. So ungrateful. After everything we did. We raised you, gave you everything, and this is how you repay us? By embarrassing us in front of family. I laughed bitterly. You embarrassed yourselves when you turned my marriage into a circus. My father stood up, towering over me. You think you're better than us now? You And that woman, I echoed, fury rising, is my wife. Say her name, or shut your mouth. He stepped closer. Don't you dare tell me what to do in my own home. Funny, I said. You've never known how to make it feel like one. He shoved me, not hard, but enough to make my chair skid back. Vienna gasped. Stop, she cried. Please stop. I could hear Khaleesi muttering something behind me. Words like brainwashed, weak, ungrateful. I turned on her. You think you know me? You don't know a damn thing. You're a spoiled brat who hides behind Mum's tears and Dad's temper. Her jaw dropped. You've really changed, Bellamy. Good, I said. I never want to be the person you remember. For a moment, everything froze. My father glared at me with pure hatred. My mother sobbed louder. Khaleesi looked ready to throw something. Then Vienna stood up, voice trembling but firm. We're leaving. No one moved. No one stopped us. The sound of the front door slamming echoed through the cold air, and it was the only sound that made sense. In the car, Vienna's hands were shaking on the steering wheel. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I'll never go back there again. I didn't argue. I just stared out at the dark road ahead, lights blurring past the window. Vienna began therapy. She said it helped her breathe again, to talk about things she couldn't say to me without shaking. One evening, she came home from her session quieter than usual. She sat on the couch, her hands trembling slightly as she scrolled through her phone. Then she showed me the email. It was from my father's address. Subject: what you've done to our son. The message read: you've divided our son from his blood. That never ends well. Vienna's voice cracked. He sent this 2 days ago. I didn't want to tell you at first. I grabbed the phone. My chest tightened as I reread every line. The phrasing, the rhythm, it was him. I called immediately. He answered after 3 rings, his tone flat. Hello. You emailed Vienna. What? No, I didn't. I saw it, Dad. You signed your name. He chuckled, low and dismissive. My account's been hacked, apparently. You know how these things go. Don't lie to me. Don't accuse me, he snapped. Maybe focus on your wife instead of turning your back on your family. I lost it. You are the reason my family's falling apart. You're the reason, he fired back. You chose her over everyone who raised you. Vienna stood in the doorway, watching as I yelled into the phone until my throat hurt. She didn't speak, just looked small, disappointed. After I hung up, she whispered, you can't keep doing this. I can't let him treat you like that. He'll never change, she said. And every time you talk to them, we lose a piece of us. I raised my voice, the anger boiling out before I could stop it. They're still my parents. Her eyes flashed. Then maybe they're all you really need. The silence after that was unbearable. I stared at her, waiting for her to take it back. She didn't. She just walked upstairs, closing the door gently like she was afraid the sound would break something that was already cracked. For days, we barely spoke. She slept on the far side of the bed, her body turned away. I tried to apologize, but she said, I'm tired of fighting ghosts that aren't even mine. A few days later, my sister Khaleesi called. Her voice was trembling. Mum's in the hospital. She had a mild stroke. She's asking for you. My stomach dropped. I didn't even look at Vienna. I just grabbed my keys. When I got to the hospital, Khaleesi was pacing outside the room. She keeps asking where you've been, she muttered. Dad's furious. He said you only care when it's convenient. Inside, Mum was lying pale and weak under the thin blanket. When she saw me, tears welled in her eyes. I just wanted to see you before it's too late, she whispered. Her voice sounded so fragile that all my anger melted for a moment. I sat beside her and held her hand. We talked about nothing, the weather, her favorite shows, how tired she was. For an hour, I felt like a child again. When I left, I thought maybe this could be a turning point. Maybe something could heal. But the next morning, Vienna showed me her phone again. Look at this. It was a Facebook post from my father. Public. My son only shows up when someone's dying. Some love, that is. Hundreds of comments underneath. Neighbors, old family friends, everyone weighing in. Khaleesi had liked the post. Something inside me cracked open. I called him again, shaking. He answered with that smug tone I knew too well. So you've seen it. What's wrong with you? I shouted. Mum's alive, and you're turning this into a spectacle? I'm just telling the truth, he said calmly. Maybe if you weren't too busy playing house, you'd have been here before she collapsed. You think guilt makes you right? You've been poisoning everything since I left. Watch your mouth. No, I screamed. You watch yours for once. You call me ungrateful. You humiliate me online. You threaten my wife. And for what? Because I won't keep living by your rules. I could hear him breathing heavily through the line. Then he said coldly, you'll regret this. Families don't forget betrayal. Good, I spat. Then remember this too. I'm done being your son. I hung up before he could answer. My hands were shaking, my throat raw. Vienna was standing behind me, tears in her eyes. It's over now, right? I nodded. No more. Ever. But that night, my sister called again, this time screaming. How dare you talk to Dad like that? He's sick over what you said. Sick? I shouted. He's been tormenting me for months. Because you abandoned us. You let her control you. Don't you dare blame Vienna. She ruined everything. I snapped. The only thing she ruined was the illusion that any of you ever loved me. There was silence on the other end. Then Khaleesi hissed. You sound just like her. Cold. Selfish. Something in me broke completely. And you sound just like him. Manipulative. Cruel. I hung up and threw my phone against the wall. Vienna came running in, her voice breaking. Stop it, please. I'm done with them, I said, panting. Every single one. She stared at me for a long time, then said quietly, "Then let's finally start living for us." But her voice trembled when she said it, and the way she looked at me, like she wasn't sure I could. I nodded anyway. "We will. A year passes slower when you're rebuilding yourself from the ground up." We sold our flat in Bath and moved to Hereford. Quiet, small, surrounded by fields that seemed to stretch forever. It was the kind of silence that used to scare me. Now it felt like a kind of mercy. No one knew where we were. Not my parents, not Khaleesi, only a few close friends, and even they didn't ask too many questions. I changed my number, deleted every trace of social media. Vienna said she felt like she could finally breathe again. For a while, things were calm, peaceful even. I fixed up the garden, planted mint and rosemary. Vienna started painting again. At night, we'd sit by the window, the lights from the farmhouse across the field barely visible through the mist. Then the email came. It was from Khaleesi. The subject line, "Dad." Her message was short, almost cautious. "Dad isn't doing well. He wants to make peace before it's too late. But if you've moved on, I understand." I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Vienna walked in and saw my face. "What happened?" I handed her the laptop. She read it slowly, lips tightening. "You don't have to answer." But I already felt that old, bitter ache rising again, the one I thought I'd buried in Bath. "He wants to make peace," I said, almost to myself. "After everything he's done." Vienna put her hand over mine. "Peace doesn't erase what happened." I pulled my hand away, shaking. "He's still my father." Her eyes hardened. "He's the man who broke you." We argued. Again. For the first time in months, the walls of our new home echoed with shouting. "You don't get it," I yelled. "You never lost your family the way I did. And you don't get that you chose to keep walking into the fire," she shouted back. The words hit like punches. For a moment, we just stood there, both breathing hard, both trembling. Finally, I sank into the kitchen chair. I can't ignore it." "Then what?" she snapped. "You'll go there, let him guilt you again, and come back shattered? I can't keep watching you bleed for people who never cared when you were drowning." Her voice broke at the end, and I hated that I'd made her cry again. That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat in the living room, staring out the window at the faint glow of the moon on the wet fields. By morning, I made my decision. I wrote back to Khaleesi. "I wish him peace, but I've already made mine." I hit send and closed the laptop. My hands were shaking, but it was done. A few hours later, my phone buzzed, an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me swipe the screen. It was my father. "Son," he said, his voice thin, almost ghostly. "I just wanted to hear your voice." I froze. "How did you get this number?" "Your sister," he said simply. "She thought I deserved a chance." "You deserve nothing," I snapped. "You humiliated me. You attacked my wife. You made me feel like a stranger in my own family." He coughed weakly. "Families fight, but blood forgives. Blood doesn't excuse cruelty," I said through clenched teeth. "You always were dramatic," he muttered, the weakness in his voice giving way to the old disdain. "She's made you soft. Look at you, running away from your own kin." Something in me snapped. "You think strength means shouting louder? Manipulating people until they break? You're a coward who hides behind family as an excuse for control." He raised his voice. I didn't even know he still had that much energy left. "You ungrateful child. We gave you everything, and this is how you repay us." I stood up, phone pressed to my ear like a weapon. "You gave me shame. You gave me fear. You made me believe love was something I had to earn by staying silent." "Don't talk to me like that," he barked. "Then stop pretending you're the victim." I shouted. "You ruined every chance we had at being a family, and now you want forgiveness because you're dying?" Silence. Just his uneven breathing on the other end. Then he said quietly, "You'll regret this when I'm gone." "No," I said, my voice steady now. "For the first time, I won't." I hung up. Vienna was standing in the doorway, eyes red but calm. "It's over now," she whispered. I nodded, though my chest ached. "Yeah, it's over." We didn't speak for the rest of the day. That evening, we sat on the back steps of our house, watching the sky turn soft and orange over the quiet fields. The air smelled of rain and cut grass. Vienna leaned against my shoulder. "Do you regret it?" she asked quietly. I thought about the years of shouting, the guilt, the endless cycle of trying to fix something that had always been broken. I thought about the way my father's voice had sounded. Not sick, not sorry, just bitter to the end. Finally, I said, "No, not anymore." The end. "Bellamy, you're not AITA. You didn't cut your family off to be cruel. You did it to finally breathe. You tried for years to keep peace, to meet them halfway, and every time, they moved the line and called you ungrateful for not following. That's not love. That's control dressed up as family. Your parents don't see boundaries. They see betrayal. Your dad mistakes yelling for strength. Your mom turns guilt into theater, and your sister follows the script. It's a cycle where everyone's feelings matter except yours." Vienna wasn't trying to turn you against them. She was trying to protect what was left of your peace. She watched them drag you into chaos and still stood by you when it broke her heart. That's not manipulation. That's loyalty. You didn't burn a bridge. You stopped letting them set fire to your side of it. Walking away wasn't selfish. It was survival. So don't feel guilty for choosing calm over chaos. You've done the hardest part already, realizing you deserve better. Before we jump into the next story, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know your favorite part in the comments. AITA for keeping my mother's inheritance after my siblings try to take it back. My mother's will shattered my family. She left everything to me and nothing to them. My brother slammed his chair. My sister screamed that I poisoned her mind. A week later, I was getting threats, rumors, even a lawsuit, all from the people who abandoned her when she was dying. They said I was greedy, but the truth is, I was the only one who stayed. And now, they'll do anything to rewrite history, even if it means destroying what's left of her memory. My name is Emilio, and I'm 36. I grew up in the coastal town of Windmere, a quiet place where the sea winds never stop blowing and gossip travels faster than the tide. My mother, Angelica, passed away 6 months ago. In her will, she left everything to me: her seaside cottage, her savings, her small art collection, even her old silver car. She made that decision herself years before her illness began. I never asked her to, never suggested it. It was her choice, one she wrote down clearly and deliberately. My brother Michael, who's 40, and my sister Veda, who's 38, didn't take it well. Not that I expected them to. Because to be clear, this wasn't some sudden or unfair decision. 10 years ago, Mum gave them each £70,000 to get their lives started. She called it an early gift, not a loan. Michael opened a restaurant. It failed in 2 years. He blamed the location, the suppliers, the customers, everyone but himself. Veda said she wanted to study interior design. Instead, she spent most of it traveling through Europe and buying a luxury car she could barely afford to insure. After the money was gone, they both drifted away. Michael stopped visiting, stopped calling, except when he needed help paying his bills. Veda blocked Mum's number once because she needed space, only to unblock her when she was short on rent. Meanwhile, I was the one who stayed. I took Mum to her doctor's appointments. I cleaned her cottage. I paid her bills on time and sat with her through long, silent evenings when she was too tired to talk. I watched her hands tremble when she tried to hold a spoon. She wasn't rich, but she was proud, and she wanted to leave what little she had to someone who actually stayed when things got hard. The will was drawn up by Mr. Kellen, her longtime lawyer in Bristol, witnessed and signed properly. There's even a handwritten note attached that says, "I gave my other children their inheritance during my lifetime." When the will was read, everything shattered. Michael slammed his chair back, face red with anger. "This is rubbish," he spat. "You got in her head. You made her do this." Veda burst into tears. "You always made her feel guilty for loving us less. You manipulated her, Emilio." I tried to stay calm. "She made her own decisions. You both know that." But they wouldn't hear it. They shouted over me, calling me selfish, cold-hearted, ungrateful. Then they stormed out, the sound of the front door slamming so hard it rattled the windows. For a few days, I hoped they'd calm down, but I should have known better. 2 weeks later, Michael posted a long Facebook rant. "Some people pretend to be the good son while stealing everything from under your nose." Veda commented underneath, "It's disgusting what greed does to people. Some things never change." My phone wouldn't stop buzzing after that. Family, friends, old neighbors, everyone suddenly wanted to check in. One of my cousins even messaged, "Maybe you should share a bit, Emilio. Be the bigger person." The humiliation made my stomach twist. Then came the emails. Michael wrote, "Mum would have wanted us all to be taken care of. You manipulated her, Emilio. You owe us." I replied once, "I owe you nothing. You both had your share. You wasted it." He answered almost immediately, "You think you're better than us. But karma's coming." I blocked him. Then I blocked Veda. But they weren't done. A few nights later, Anna, my girlfriend, showed me her phone. Her hands were shaking. "Look at this," she whispered. It was a message from Veda on Instagram. "Watch your back. He doesn't share anything, not even love." I saw red. My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. I grabbed my phone and called Veda immediately. She answered after a few rings, her tone smug. "Oh, so now you talk to me. You're sick, you know that." I snapped. "You've hit a new low." She laughed, that cruel, hollow laugh I'd known since childhood. "You took everything from me already, Emilio. What's one more thing? You took it from yourself." I shouted. "You wasted every chance she gave you. Don't you dare put that on me." There was a pause. Then she whispered, cold and quiet, "You'll regret this," and hung up. I stood there, shaking. Anna came to the doorway and said softly, "She's trying to get inside your head. Don't let her." A week later, an email arrived from a law firm in Bristol. Michael and Veda had hired a solicitor. They were claiming I used undue influence to convince Mum to cut them out. The letter said they'd drop the case if compensated fairly. The compensation? £50,000 each. At first, I laughed out loud. It felt absurd. But then the laughter turned into a knot of dread. Because I knew what this meant. Months of calls, documents, interviews. And no matter what, they'd drag Mum's name through the mud. I called them both that evening, against Anna's advice. Michael answered first. His voice was cold. You're wasting your time, I told him. The will is airtight. He scoffed. We'll see what the court thinks. You won't win, I said, trying to sound calm. He laughed, slow and mocking. Doesn't matter. You'll lose more than money. You'll lose face. Face, I snapped. You lost your integrity years ago. He raised his voice. You always thought you were the same. You think just because you stuck around, you're some kind of hero? You weren't helping her. You were waiting for this. My jaw clenched. Say that again. You heard me, he shouted. You were counting down the days until she died so you could take what's ours. I exploded. How dare you? You weren't there when she was coughing blood at 3 a.m. You weren't there when she begged to see her children, and you ignored her calls. Don't you dare talk about what's yours. Enough, he yelled. You're nothing without her money. Then why are you trying so hard to take it from me? I fired back. There was silence, then a click. He hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time, trembling with anger. Anna came into the room, worry etched on her face. Emilio, this isn't worth your peace, she said softly. You know what the truth is. But I couldn't stop thinking about what he'd said. Not because I believed it, but because it showed just how deep their resentment ran. The next day, Veda sent me a text. He's right, you know. You took everything from us. You'll never have peace. I typed back. You lost peace the moment you chose money over family. She didn't reply. Later that week, a family friend from town, Mrs. Cleary, stopped me at the grocery store. Oh, Emilio, she said, sighing dramatically. I heard about the will. Such a shame. Your mother would have wanted her children together, not fighting. I forced a smile. She also would have wanted them to visit her while she was alive. That shut her up. But everywhere I went, the cafe, the post office, even the pier, I could feel the whispers. People looking, pretending not to look. The tension built until I couldn't sleep. I'd wake up at 2 a.m., heart racing, imagining Mom's voice saying, Please, Emilio, don't let this tear the family apart. But maybe it already had. One night, I sat on the cottage porch, staring out at the Black Sea. Anna came out, wrapped in her robe, and sat beside me. Are you okay? She asked. No, I admitted. I feel like no matter what I do, I lose. She rested her hand on mine, then stopped trying to win. Just live. I nodded, but my chest still felt heavy. Because deep down, I knew something. This wasn't about money. It never was. The lawsuit didn't just drag on. It devoured everything. My days blurred into nights spent in front of stacks of papers, voice notes, and text printouts. Every message I'd ever sent my mother was dissected. Every word she'd ever said about me twisted into something ugly by Michael and Veda's lawyer. Mr. Kellen, Mom's lawyer, did his best to keep me calm, but it was impossible. Every hearing, every email, every smirk from Michael made my blood boil. During one call, their solicitor, a sharp woman with a clipped voice, said, Mr. Serrano, there's concern that your influence over your mother increased after her diagnosis. Before I could stop myself, I said, Influence? You mean caring for her? Feeding her when she couldn't lift her hands? Sitting by her bedside while her so-called children were on holiday? Michael's voice broke through, full of venom. Oh, here we go. Saint Emilio, the loyal son. You think wiping her mouth made you a hero? Don't talk about her like that. I yelled. She would have been ashamed of how you treated her. Don't you dare, he snapped back. You poisoned her against us. She was scared of dying alone, and you made sure she thought we left her. I slammed my hand against the desk. You did leave her. Even the solicitor tried to interject, but we were both past reason. Veda's face appeared on the screen then, eyes puffy, her voice trembling but full of spite. She used to cry to me, she said. She told me she didn't want to be a burden on you. Maybe that's why she gave you everything, because you made her feel like one. That broke me. Are you insane? I shouted. You don't get to rewrite what happened. You weren't there when she was coughing blood, when she couldn't walk, when she said she wanted me to stay because she was scared to sleep alone. Veda's voice rose, shrill and bitter. You made sure she had no one else, because you abandoned her. I warned. Michael clapped sarcastically. Bravo, brother. You're really good at crying on cue. I stood up, shaking with anger, my voice shaking too. You're parasites, both of you. You took her money, her trust, her heart, and when she needed you, you were too busy pretending to have lives worth showing off. The solicitor finally cut the call short. Mr. Kellen sighed on the other end, pinching the bridge of his nose. They're trying to provoke you, Emilio. Don't give them what they want. But I already had. They'd wanted to see me break, and I had. That night, Anna found me sitting in the kitchen, staring at the wall. My hands were trembling. They'll twist everything, I said quietly. Even her memory. Anna came closer, her voice soft but steady. Then don't let them take that from you. They already took enough. 2 days later, another email arrived. A meeting had been scheduled, an attempt at mediation before the case went further. Against my better judgment, judgment, I agreed. It was held in a rented office space in Bristol, sterile and echoing, with a long table separating us like a border between two countries at war. Michael came in wearing a suit that didn't fit, his eyes sunken. Veda arrived late, sunglasses on indoors. When she finally sat, she smirked at me. "Still playing house with your little girlfriend?" she said. "Still pretending to have dignity?" I shot back. Her smirk fell. The mediator, some neutral man who probably regretted accepting this case, started speaking about resolution, understanding, and family legacy. But no one was listening. Michael leaned forward, elbows on the table. "You could have avoided all this if you just shared, you know." I laughed bitterly. "You mean if I handed you the last thing she trusted me with? Forget it. You're pathetic," he said flatly. "Living in that crumbling cottage like some saint while we scrape by." "You chose to scrape by," I snapped. "You had your chance, both of you. She gave you everything once, and you wasted it." Michael slammed his hand on the table. "Don't talk to me like that. Then don't act like a child," I shouted. "You think screaming unfair will bring back the money you blew on bad food and worse decisions?" Veda's voice cut through, trembling. "She loved us too, Emilio. Maybe you can't handle that." I turned to her. "No, she pined for you. There's a difference. Love doesn't mean forgiveness, Veda. She died still waiting for you to walk through that door." Veda's jaw clenched. "You don't know what it's like to live with guilt. Then stop using it as an excuse to destroy what's left of her peace." Her chair screeched as she stood. "You think you're better than us," she spat. "I am better than what you've become," I said coldly. The room went silent after that. Even the mediator didn't move. They left before the session ended. I stayed, staring at the table until Mr. Kellen gently touched my shoulder. "They won't win," he said, "but this will leave a mark." And it did. A month later, the solicitor called me to say the case had been dropped without prejudice, meaning they could reopen it anytime. But I knew they wouldn't. Because 2 days after that, I saw Veda's name in the local paper, arrested for fraud. She'd taken out loans under someone else's name, using fake documents. Michael sold his car to bail her out. The irony wasn't lost on me. I didn't call, not once. Then, one evening, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. For a moment, I thought it was spam, but something in my gut said otherwise. It was Michael. His voice was quiet, worn, even. "She's not doing well," he said. "She keeps talking about Mom. Says she hears her voice at night. She's losing it, Emilio." I swallowed hard. "I'm sorry to hear that. She keeps saying she ruined everything," he whispered. "And maybe she did, but maybe we all did." Silence stretched between us, years of resentment and grief condensing into static. Then he said something I didn't expect. "I'm done fighting, Emilio. I just want her to stop crying." For the first time in years, I didn't feel anger, just exhaustion. "I hope you both find peace," I said. He hesitated. "Then, you too, brother." The line went dead. That night, I sat outside the cottage. The wind moved softly through the grass, carrying the faint scent of sea salt from Windmere's coast. Anna came out and leaned her head against my shoulder. "Is it over?" she asked. "Maybe not," I said quietly, "but I think I'm done fighting." She took my hand. "Then start living, Emilio." And for the first time since Mom died, I believed it might be possible. "Emilio, you're not AITA. What you did wasn't greedy. It was simply honoring your mother's own decision. She chose to leave her home and savings to the one person who actually showed up, not the ones who remembered her only when their bills were due. That's not favoritism. That's fairness measured in presence, not promises." Michael and Veda aren't angry because you took something from them. They're angry because you reminded them of what they gave up. They spent their gifts on comfort and distraction, then came back years later trying to rewrite history as victims. Their problem isn't the will. It's the mirror it holds up to their own choices. You stayed through the worst nights. You carried the weight they refused to lift. You didn't influence your mother. You supported her. If love had a currency, you already paid your share in full. The rest was simply paperwork. When they posted those rants, when the lawyers got involved, when every whispered rumor tried to paint you as a schemer, you didn't stoop to their level. You just kept going. That kind of restraint isn't weakness. It's quiet strength, the kind most people don't notice until it's too late. You didn't win because of a will. You won because you lived with integrity when no one was watching. So no, you're not AITA. You're just the only one who remembered that love isn't a transaction, and that sometimes peace comes from walking away while everyone else is still shouting. Before we jump into the next story, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know your favorite part in the comments. AITA for cutting off my mother after she used me as her caretaker, and ATM? My name is Declan, and I'm 21. I live in a small apartment above a bakery in Southport, a quiet town near the sea. Every morning, the smell of bread drifts through the thin walls, mixing with the soft hum of passing buses and gulls calling somewhere beyond the rooftops. It's peaceful here. Peace, that small, ordinary thing, is something I never knew existed when I lived with my mother, Hadley. For most of my life, everything revolved around her. She used to tell people we were a team, but what she really meant was that I was the one holding everything up. She wasn't cruel at first, just exhausted. Bills, rent, long shifts that never lasted more than a few months. She'd sigh and say, "Nobody ever helps me, Declan. Nobody ever stays." When I was younger, I believed her. I thought it was my job to stay. But as I grew older, something changed. She stopped seeing me as her son and started seeing me as her safety net. If I came home late from my part-time job, she'd already be waiting in the kitchen, arms crossed, ready to complain. "You're never here when I need you," she'd say. What kind of son abandons his own mother? It didn't matter if I was at work or bringing groceries. In her eyes, I was always failing her. When I turned 17, I dropped out of college to work full-time. She told me it was temporary. "We'll both benefit," she promised. "You help me now, and I'll help you later." But later never came. Every paycheck went straight to her. Electricity, food, late rent, credit cards I never signed up for. Sometimes she'd take my debit card just for a few things. By morning, my account would be empty. When I tried to ask where the money went, she'd explode. "Don't you dare question me. Do you think life is free?" And if I pushed back, she'd get quiet, dangerously quiet, before saying, "You owe me everything. Don't forget who kept you alive." Those words always stopped me, because I did owe her, didn't I? At least that's what I told myself. The fights got worse when I turned 19. She started accusing me of hiding money, of keeping secrets, of scheming to leave. Once, when I refused to give her my wages early, she threw my jacket out the front door and yelled, "Then leave if you think you're such a man." I remember standing outside in the rain, holding that soaked jacket, wondering how love could sound so much like hate. A few months later, I found out she'd taken out a phone contract in my name. I only discovered it because a debt collector called me about unpaid bills. When I confronted her, she didn't even look ashamed. "It's just a phone, Declan," she said, stirring her tea. "You should be proud you're useful to someone." Something snapped in me that day. All those years of silence and obedience broke at once. I shouted, really shouted, for the first time in my life. "Useful? I'm not your servant. You've been bleeding me dry." She slammed her cup down so hard it shattered. "Watch your mouth," she screamed. "Without me, you'd be nothing. I already am nothing." I yelled back, "Because of you." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Her eyes went wide, then narrow. "Ungrateful brat," she hissed. "I should have left you with your father when I had the chance." That one sentence cut deeper than anything else she'd ever said. It wasn't anger anymore. It was hate. And I knew then that if I stayed, I'd never get out alive, at least not emotionally. That night, I packed a small bag, just clothes, my phone, and the little photo of me as a child. The only time I'd ever seen her smile look real. As I opened the door, she screamed behind me, "You'll come crawling back. You always do. You're nothing without me." But I didn't turn around. For weeks, I slept on a friend's couch, working odd shifts at a grocery store to save enough for rent. Eventually, I found this apartment in Southward. One room, a cracked window, a creaky bed frame, and a flickering light bulb. But it was mine. I remember the first night I slept there. No shouting, no guilt, just the hum of the bakery downstairs and the faint sound of waves. I didn't know peace could feel like that. Of course, she didn't let me go quietly. The calls started immediately. Then the texts, long paragraphs of guilt and venom. "You abandoned me. You're heartless. I gave you life, and you gave me loneliness." I blocked her number, but she kept finding new ones. Some nights, I'd stare at my phone, waiting for another message. Even silence felt heavy. Part of me still wanted her to love me, even if I knew she couldn't. But she found a new way to reach me. Through Facebook, she started posting photos of her empty kitchen, unpaid bills spread across the counter, her face wet with fake tears. And she tagged me in every post. "My son left me to starve. I should have never raised him." Hundreds of people reacted. They shared her posts, left comments, offered prayers. One woman even messaged me privately, "Your mother needs you. Don't turn your back on family." Every word felt like a blade twisting in my chest. I wanted to explain, to tell them the truth, but I didn't. Explaining would mean reliving it. So I stayed silent. But silence felt like guilt. Months passed. Then one afternoon, I got a message from Maxine, my mother's cousin. She said, "Declan, your mom isn't doing well. She's been in and out of the hospital. Please talk to her." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I wrote back, "If she's sick, I'll pay for her treatment, but I can't go back." I wired the money that same night. It wasn't about forgiveness, just responsibility. But a week later, she called again. A new number, a familiar voice. "Stop sending money to strangers," she snapped. "If you really cared, you'd come here yourself." I felt something inside me twist. "Cared," I said quietly. "You used me for years, Mom. I'm done." "You think you're better than me?" she shouted. "You wouldn't survive one day if I hadn't raised you." That was the line she always used, the weapon she never put down. This time, I didn't let her finish. "I might not have survived because you raised me," I yelled back. The silence that followed was deafening. Then the line clicked dead. I sat there for a while, staring at the wall. My hands were shaking. I wanted to cry, but no tears came. It was like I'd already run out of them years ago. That night, I stood on my balcony. The sea wind carried the smell of salt and bread, soft and bitter at once. Below me, people laughed outside the bakery, ordinary lives moving on. And for the first time, I realized how much I'd missed living. Still, guilt doesn't vanish. It lingers like smoke, invisible but heavy. Every time my phone buzzed, I'd feel my stomach twist. Sometimes I'd imagine her voice calling from the past, scolding, pleading, blaming, but I didn't answer. It's been 6 months since I last spoke to Hadley, since I walked out of her flat and finally turned off my phone, deleting her number for good. I thought that silence would last forever, that freedom would feel easy. But life has a way of twisting things into new forms of tension. Last week, my phone buzzed again. Not with a name I knew, not Maxine, not any friend, just an unknown number. I stared at it, my heart hammering. My first instinct was to ignore it. I did, but the messages didn't stop. Short bursts at odd hours. Angry, bitter words. One read, "You think you're free? You're nothing without me." I almost threw the phone across the room. That voice, Hadley's, screamed through the text, not directly calling, not a voice I could respond to, but the words cut just as sharply. I wanted to yell at her through the phone, to throw every insult I'd held in for years back at her, but I didn't. Not yet. Maxine called me a few hours later. "Declan, she's deteriorating. She's saying things, horrible things. She's calling me, calling strangers, anyone who will listen. She's saying you abandoned her, that you ruined her life." I pinched the bridge of my nose. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake someone, anyone, and let the anger pour out. I wanted to text Hadley and tell her exactly what I thought, every sharp word and insult that had built up over years. But I didn't. I knew it would only make things worse. Still, guilt gnawed at me. I wired some money to a local pharmacy so her prescriptions could be filled. It wasn't enough to make her stop. It wouldn't. I knew that. I was done giving. I had given my life to her, literally, and it had left me hollow. Then came the escalation. One night, around midnight, my phone rang. I didn't answer at first. The caller persisted. Finally, I picked up, expecting some stranger or scam. "Declan," she hissed. Her voice was thinner, more frail than I remembered, but underneath it, the same venom. "You think you're better than me? You think you can just live your life while I rot?" I slammed my fist on the table. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. "I'm not living for you. I'm living for me. Do you understand that? Living for you?" She laughed, a harsh, cracked sound. "You're pathetic. You couldn't survive one day without me. You ungrateful child." I shouted back, my voice raw. "Ungrateful? I spent years being your servant. I worked, I sacrificed, I gave you everything I had. And this is how you speak to me? You're a parasite, Hadley. You drain me dry." "Parasite?" she screamed, the line shaking. "How dare you? I gave you life. I fed you. I raised you. You raised me." I yelled, standing up. "You used me. You trapped me. You made me pay for your mistakes. You didn't raise me. You exploited me." The shouting echoed through the small apartment. I could feel the neighbors downstairs probably staring at their ceiling. I didn't care. I wanted her to feel the fury I had carried inside for years. "You'll regret this, Declan. You'll regret leaving me," she shrieked. "I regret nothing." I yelled. "I regret staying as long as I did. I regret letting you control me. I regret thinking I owed you something when all you did was hurt me." There was silence on the other end for a moment, then a weak, trembling voice. I just wanted my son." And suddenly, the fury wasn't enough. I felt the old pangs of guilt, the twisted mess of emotions that had bound me to her for so long. I wanted to hate her, and part of me still did, but part of me remembered the girl I had been, helpless, scared, desperate for a mother's love. "I'm not your son anymore," I said quietly, almost whispering. "You had your chance. You wasted it." The line went dead. I sat there, breathing heavily, my chest aching from the yelling. My hands shook. The apartment was quiet except for the faint hum of the street below. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel relief. I felt free. Maxine called again the next day. "Declan, she's gone. She's moving into a church-supported shelter. They're helping her, finally. She asked me not to contact you." I exhaled slowly, and for the first time in years, I felt like the weight had lifted. I didn't celebrate. I didn't smile much, but I felt light, unburdened. That night, I sat by the window of my small Southport flat. The wind from the sea ruffled the curtains. I watched the waves crash against the pier in the distance, and I whispered to myself, "It's over." Freedom wasn't joy. Freedom wasn't happiness. Freedom was quiet. It was breathing without guilt. It was finally being able to live for myself and no one else. The end. Declan, you are not AITA. You didn't run away from responsibility. You walked away from emotional quicksand. There's a difference between helping someone and being buried under their problems until you forget what daylight looks like. Your mother didn't raise you. She drafted you. You weren't her son in her eyes. You were her insurance policy, her last defense against the world she refused to face herself. Every "you owe me" was just her way of saying, "I need someone to suffer beside me so I don't have to admit I'm drowning." That's not family. That's guilt with a parent's name tag. You stayed far longer than most would have. You worked, paid bills, gave her everything you had, and still she treated you like a villain for wanting a life. That's not ingratitude. That's exhaustion. You didn't betray her. You just stopped volunteering for a role she refused to retire. The joke of it all, she kept calling you ungrateful when gratitude was all you ever gave. You gave it in silence, in late-night jobs, in paychecks that vanished before you even saw them. But no amount of giving fills a hole built out of self-pity. You didn't leave to punish her. You left to survive. survive her. You tried talking, helping, paying, reasoning, but she wasn't listening. She wanted obedience, not honesty. And when you finally shouted back, that wasn't cruelty. That was your first real breath. Freedom isn't loud, it's quiet. It's sitting in your apartment above that bakery, smelling fresh bread instead of burnt guilt. It's knowing the world still turns even when she's not holding the steering wheel. You're not AITA, Declan. You're someone who finally realized that love without respect is just control wearing perfume. You didn't abandon your mother. You just stopped being her power source. And if peace feels strange right now, that's fine. It always does at first. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Got a story to share? Drop it in the comments and let us know which one was your favorite.